I'm going to start my SRT again, just because sometimes if it's not restarted, it won't show enemy HP, and that'll be a problem. What costume am I going for? I'm going to go for the old classic tank top, I think.
All right, so welcome back to Speed Gaming Live 2021. I am your host, Tyler Salt. We are back here with Resident Evil 2 Remake with SnakeSocom. Don't forget to get your donations in. For the link, you can do !donate in the chat. All the proceeds will go to fund the prize pool for next year's Speed Gaming Live tournament. So help support Speed Gaming and the speedrunning community and give our talented runners a chance to make some money doing this silly hobby that we all have. But take a look at that. We got some prizes coming up for you tonight, including these great Chrono Trigger Pearlers. Any donations coming in before 10 p.m. Eastern time tonight will count towards that. So you have about another hour in if you want to qualify for those and get your incentives in. The next couple incentives up here are for the Ninja Gaiden Black run costume choice. That's a little bit later tonight, just before midnight Eastern time, and the boxers for Super Mario Odyssey overnight at 3 a.m. Eastern time, as well as I'll call out the incentive for Primal Light, which is a fun platformer that I run, but that's gonna be by Verts505. Make him switch from any percent to low percent. That's tomorrow morning at 9:53 a.m. Eastern time. Those are the next incentives coming up. But here we go. Let's get started. I'll throw things back over to SnakeSocom for Resident Evil 2 Remake. Take it away.
Thanks for joining us again. I'm sorry that you have to deal with 2 hours of me, so we are back with another run now of Resident Evil 2 Remake. I'm going to address Dr. Jertberg's message there about no Resident Evil shirt. I do actually have a Resident Evil 2 shirt, but unfortunately I wore it yesterday, so I have to put it in the wash after wearing it. So, yeah, but I will show off a little Resident Evil 2 thing so you know we have got it there. It's my little notebook for puzzles. We use that. It's usually got stuff written down to help me, so I will be using that through the run. So there's something Resident Evil 2 themed here. But got Sonic joining us again, so welcome back, Sonic. Did you have a nice little minute break?
Yeah, man, great to be back as well, and looking forward to see something I'm a little bit more familiar with, Resident Evil 2. But yeah, man, I'll count you down whenever you're ready.
Yeah, cool. So we're running the 120 FPS category. This is Claire B. So Claire B is a little bit shorter than Claire A, and also has different puzzle solutions to the A side, as well as an extra boss. Also, what I will say is in Claire B, the DA is higher. Now, before we start the run, I will explain DA. So Resident Evil has something called DA, which is a difficulty adjustment. Depending on certain things you do in the game will adjust your difficulty. So, for example, picking up a herb, picking up certain items will increase that. So we try and not pick up too many healing items because although we're playing on standard, so your DA starts on Claire B on 5,500, which is the standard difficulty. If it gets to 8 and above, that's a hardcore difficulty. And we don't want that, because that makes it basically the game, although you're playing on standard, you're basically playing hardcore at that point. So, Sonic, count me down whenever you're ready.
Absolutely. All right. So starting the run in 3, 2, 1, go. Best of luck, man.
Thank you.
So yeah, to just kind of come off the back of what Snake was saying, this is Claire's second. After finishing the game as Leon for the first time, you'll find out what Claire was doing while Leon was exploring, and as you can see here, it doesn't start you at the famous gas station, because Claire is a little late to the party. We've already seen that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So we start on Claire A, start at the gas station, like I think you just mentioned that, Sonic, but here we start already at the RPD police department, so we're basically a bit ahead of time, and we don't have to do a little bit of the stuff that we have to do in the A side.
So the helicopter, as you heard, crashed into the side of the building. It's attracted a lot of zombies. You're going to see Snake moving down the stairs quickly. It's called Stair Skating, and it is present in all 3 Resident Evil remakes. In Resident Evil 2, you just push the aim button in a rhythm, and you go up the stairs quicker. But perfectly enough, we grabbed the Colt Single Action Army, as we just played Metal Gear Solid. Ocelot would call it the greatest handgun ever made, and it will be our main handgun for the B scenario. Snake playing it safe here. A big horde of zombies throwing a grenade there just makes it a lot easier for us to get through here.
Very RNG based, that section, so depending on how it goes, it can depend on whether you want to use that grenade or not. Didn't go very well for me, so unfortunately I had to use the grenade. So that's very RNG, and Resident Evil can be probably, I'm not familiar with other speed games, but I think it's very RNG based compared to, certainly because the 2 games I run are Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil. Resident Evil has a higher, much higher level RNG base than Metal Gear Solid does.
Absolutely. I think, especially with the addition of the difficulty adjustment, or DA as we'll call it in this during this run, as Snake explained, it does. It's actually been in the series since Resident Evil 4, which I didn't really know until I started to kind of learn how the run works. And for a casual player, it's a way of kind of keeping the player on their toes and never feeling like it's too easy. For speedrunners, it's a little bit of RNG, makes the game a little bit more rougher to run through.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that you'll see in a moment's time is on Resident Evil Remake for 2 and 3, Jill and Claire, so we're playing as Claire, but Jill is in Resident Evil 3. Claire and Jill run faster if they're on caution. So we're gonna now hopefully understand, or hopefully get, Claire onto caution, which we have just done. So you'll see how she's now limping forward and making certain movements that helps us go on, move a little faster. So,
ooh, nicely dodged as well.
Yeah, it was a nice dodge. I was a bit scared there though.
You got the famous, what they're called, bolt cutters that are in every single Resident Evil engine game.
Yes, absolutely. They're in Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, or 8.
That movement you saw Snake just do was completely intentional. That zombie falling over because he ran over there, the zombie falls over. Don't have to deal with it. We'll use the valve, head to the stars corridor. No liquor here in the B scenario, thankfully. I think it's assumed that Leon dealt with it.
Yeah, you don't want to know what's in here instead, but you'll probably hear his footsteps. I'm not going to turn around and show you, but he goes by a certain alphabetical name, Mr., and then a letter. A certain letter, and we don't really like him, he's not very nice.
What's interesting about Mr. X is how he's been redone in this remake. In the original game, he was exclusive to this second or B scenario, but he's been reworked to be in all 4 scenarios for Leon and Claire. He shows up much earlier in the B scenario, because in the A scenario you come here earlier, you do a lot of other things, and then you meet him.
Yeah, so in the A scenario, you don't see him until what we call RPD2, which is basically your return to RPD. In the B side, he is in from RPD1 basically. So this puzzle is from Park Bird.
So here we're grabbing the first of 3 medals. We need the 3 medallions in order to gain access to the underground section of the station. I believe the combination changes in the B scenario compared to the A scenario. The only thing that is random about it isn't so much the combinations, but the tiles can be on different combinations.
Yes.
So it'll take more or less moves depending on what you get.
Yeah. So a big thing that we mentioned again about the RNG of the game is that that is RNG where they're placed. So not only does the puzzle change, but it can also be rough RNG that you get a certain one that you're looking for. Really, like, what would you call it? About 10 or 5 scrolls, depending on how much you have to do. So this is Crown, Fire, Bird. It's a bit like that one. The
Just
bird
like
was
that.
in like a good place, but the other two weren't. So that would have been good.
So that's all 3 medals obtained. We can now go down into the underground bit. Unfortunately for Claire, she doesn't get to meet Marvin in this scenario, who has already succumbed and become a zombie. And we're now heading to what will be the first boss battle of the run, G1.
And that follows suit with the original of this game as well, which Sornek runs quite a lot compared to myself. I'm very much more a remake runner. But in the original as well, in the B scenario, you don't meet Marvin. He is already dead too.
So here we are. On the build up here to the first boss battle against G1, and as you've seen throughout the run, Snake's picked up a couple of knives, or self-defense items as they're called in this game, which can range from knives to flashbangs to grenades. Now, Snake's playing on 120 frames per second. What was found very early on by the Resident Evil community is that the knife's damage is actually tied to the frame rate. So the knife is actually extremely overpowered for this fight, and you can just take him down with a knife. There we go, GG. Almost got grabbed at the end there, but you had the safety knife with you, you made it through.
Yeah. And just to explain why we knocked the graphics down to 50%, that holds the 120 frames. So we make sure we want the game to hold 120 while we're doing the knife swiping. So, yeah, that's why we do that.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff going on screen at that time. You really, again, because the damage is tied to the frame rate, you really want to keep those frames at the cap. And I believe that's probably the main decision behind why they decided to have 2 categories, one 60 FPS and one 120 FPS.
Because, as you can imagine, if we didn't have categories, we would have someone that can run 5,000 FPS monitor or something, and it'd become a basically pay-to-win scenario.
Yeah, and I remember that being a big concern when this game originally came out, but I think that this is the best way to deal with it. You know, give people the option to speedrun 60 FPS or 120 FPS. But we meet Sherry, who in the original is a very disliked character by a lot of the speedrunners, myself included. The remake, not too bad.
Yeah, in remake she's free. She is not a problem at all in the remake, because there's no babysitting scenarios in remake really, whereas in the OG she's very RNG based. You have to babysit her, and if you run too far forward on the OG, she will sit down and lose you seconds and seconds. And as Sornek will say, because he is very much an OG runner, how many times have you reset because of Sherry? Is it over 9 million yet? Or
Way too many times. I think most of the clips from my channel comes from that, from Sherry memeing about and just doing bizarre things. But yeah, going in the basement here, grabbing the diamond key from the morgue. These lickers in Leon's scenario replaced with dogs, but thankfully Snake's going to get through them quickly. The movement speed definitely helps. Sets up a nice dodge there as we make our way out of the basement. At this point of the story, we've lost Sherry because we came across Chief Irons, who is the corrupt chief of police who has been sitting on Umbrella's payroll. Irons takes Sherry away from us. We need to get her back, which involves going back to the RPD, or as we call it, the RPD2, the return to the RPD. Yeah, but we're calling up the elevator here. A little bit of downtime. So I'll ask, what got you into Resident Evil speedrunning?
Watching guys on Twitch, basically. There's a guy that's he's called Super King Andy. A lot of people that if they're watching from my community they watch him a lot as well. He really motivated me. I'd watch it. He used to run this game pretty much every day, and he grinded this game out so much, and it really got me into like just watching him. I was like, oh, I'd love to be able to do this myself, and £1,000 down the drain in terms of buying a new PC so I could do it. Here we are.
It's interesting you say that because you used to run this on the Xbox One. Since moving on to the PC in the summer, what would you say are the biggest differences or changes or adaptations you've had to make through learning the game on a different platform?
I think a lot of people will probably guess what it is, but it is certainly the keyboard and mouse aspect compared to controller. Yeah, that's a big difference. Like, when I was first getting used to it, I was like, wow, this is not as easy as I thought it would be. Like, it's very hard. Keyboard and mouse is a very hard trick to learn. And I will actually touch on controller because it's actually a fun thing to mention, because this game is very much dominated by keyboard and mouse players on PC. However, there is a guy called Nick's Issues who recently got the Leon A world record on controller, and considering how heavy this is dominated by keyboard and mouse, that is just like such a massive achievement to think about.
Absolutely. Got to point out as well, I saw you picked up a big Metal Gear.
Hey, there we go.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
But yes, so yeah, this gear is used in an added section. Well, not an added section, sorry, a section that's a bit more
kind of been
expanded.
reworked from the original. Oh, nicely done there. Really good dodge.
Yeah, so the mechanic by that, and I learnt this from, again, there's another thing to sort of talk about as well, is he's probably quite well known on Twitch these days, but 7RayD, he did a big tutorial video on Resident Evil 2 speedruns, and that just taught me that dodge just by watching his stuff. So he says certainly if you're looking to get into Resident Evil 2, please do check out his stuff, because he does an absolutely fantastic tutorial. It helps so much. Like, I can't explain how helpful that tutorial was for me.
Just going to take the swipe from the liquor there.
I
Use the herb.
didn't want to, but unfortunately...
Saves menu space though, puts us back on caution for the better movement speed, so I'd say you did the right thing there.
Well, we're actually already on caution. That put me on danger.
And there's Mr. X again, so with a 10-foot tall trench coat wearing tyrant hot on our tail, we're just going to move our way up to the library and move to the clock tower. I think one thing that Snake will agree on me with is how they just reworked the police station, and they remade it in such a way that they paid a lot of tribute to the original, but made changes where they kind of needed to make it flow better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just shout out what Luke said. Yes, I am what he says, a Justin TV OG. That's not good RNG. That put me on danger as well, which is not good. Yes, so I've been on Twitch before it was Twitch, so that's where I met Luke. So I was playing Resident Evil Metal Gear Solid for about 11 years now, on and off.
Oh man, I do remember the days of Justin TV, man. So we're gonna run in here and use the metal gear. Mr. X not breaking into here. We can kind of get through this for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently you're not allowed to use your herb there, so I'm gonna have to use it in a second.
Is that related to the DA? I would let you use it because you were in the menu, weren't you?
Yeah, so because I was using it to use on that thing, it wouldn't let me use it, so I have to wait until after.
So for this section, got to do this puzzle and obtain 2 of the electronic pieces that we can use to open another room and get a hold of the key card and then save Sherry. What would you say out of the 4 scenarios in this game is your favourite to play or to speedrun?
Well, ideally people would think Leone because of how much I did it on console, but recently this one, like, it's got that level of difficulty that makes it just a little bit meany. We're in trouble. We are in trouble.
As you can hear from the thunderous footsteps, Mr. Rex is right on our tail here.
Yeah, so yeah, I've really got into this one recently and smashed some PBs out of the park recently. Recently got myself down to a 56-18. So it's a very recent PB, but yeah, like I was just saying, we're on big trouble right now because we do not want to be on danger. It's not a heal for a while.
Just adds to the tension of the race though. We'll go through here. He can't chase us into here, thankfully. There are a couple of rooms where you are safe.
Yeah, so here we go.
So this puzzle, you put the 2 electronic pieces in and you just put the wires in a certain way. I'm not even going to try to explain it. I am baffled by this puzzle, but
yeah,
I think Snake would do a better job
showing
off how it's done.
There's certain inputs to it. I got off memory really. There's probably a quicker way than what I'm doing it, but there's like certain places where you click. Like I've got my puzzle book open right now, and it's I didn't even follow it because I don't follow it for that puzzle. It's got off muscle memory, like I said, but it's basically you press it once on certain sections, 3 on another, and 1 on another, and it's a bit like that.
So we're at Sherry's section here with this puzzle coming up here. We need to escape from the room. While Claire is trying to work out how to save Sherry, this is what she's been up to. She's been at the orphanage nearby, where she's going to try and escape. Is there any RNG to this particular puzzle?
Yes, massively.
Is it just on where the blocks spawn and what position they're in?
Yes, that's right, yeah, so very heavily, like, it's not good for me. Ugh. Yeah, I've not done great on this puzzle.
So it's interesting to point out again that when we compare this to the original Sherry section is not well liked. This one, I think it goes by relatively easy. It's pretty free, as Snake said earlier.
Yeah. So that could have gone a lot better, that puzzle, but yeah, it's very RNG based, but also that was me just making a few mistakes as well, not thinking with my brain and more thinking with try and do this as quick as possible, but it actually turned out not being as quick as possible because I should have just given it a little bit of thought and looked at it rather than gone, oh, I'm just going to do this.
Like Luke said in the chat, we're approaching this, what's pretty much the stealth section. Again, another call to Metal Gear as we just played it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The soundtrack you hear in the background is actually the original soundtrack. With the deluxe edition of this game, it would replace the ambience I don't think the remake had much of a soundtrack. It was a lot of ambient noise, but it did replace it with a very iconic and brilliant soundtrack from the OG.
Yes, and it also replaces the menu sound as well to the original.
Oh
so,
yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, that's some DLC, and you can still have the remake soundtrack. It's an option in the option menu, but we chose to have the remake, the original. Sorry, because we're a bit sentimental.
So we grab the key. Chief Irons is chasing after us.
And he's got a bit of a language problem. He thinks it's okay to shout at young little children. I don't think her mother would be very impressed with this, because I don't think she wants her to learn the F word at this age, but Chief Irons doesn't care about that.
When you got zombies running around, I guess that kind of goes out the window once the dead start walking.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
There was always a weird complaint people had with these remakes. People say that the characters swear a little bit too much, but this has always been a very graphic and violent series. It's kind of weird that that's where people are willing to draw the line on.
Yes. There's a zombies eating people, but don't you dare say
mutating
that.
Don't you dare swear. I don't want to hear. Not much to say about this section. It's pretty much simple. Just don't get spotted. Just gonna snake around here. During this little section, while we are in this section, what would you say are your plans for this game, or for the categories?
Well, I recently put it in my Discord where I put my sort of speedrun goals over the next couple of months, where I've actually completed my recent goal for this game, where my recent goal was to sub 58 this game. I got 56.18 the other day, so I was like, oh,
you did, man.
My goal's gone out the window. So I think this, because I've just caught the feel for this game, so I want to take this as far as I can. So the person I mentioned earlier, Super King Andy, is going to teach me some things, and I want to hopefully at some point take it down to the 53, 52 mark, and we'll see where we go from there.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of the other scenarios, I think I'd like to, because I recently did Claire A and got 59.44. I think my goal for that will be to get 58, 57, something like that. And then Leon second, I haven't done a scenario on yet, but I'd like to sub out all scenarios. So Leon A and Leon second to get under an hour as well.
Very nice. So that brings us perfectly to the end of this section. Irons realising that the key's gone missing and we've taken it. And Sherry's going to make a mad dash downstairs and try to escape. If someone who's watching this run wanted to kind of get into Resident Evil 2 Remake as a speedrun, what would you say is the best place for them to start?
Best place to start on Resident Evil 2 Remake? I'd say either Leon A or Claire A. Personally, for me, it's hard to actually. I was gonna say personally for me, I'd say Leon, but I'm gonna change my mind and go for Claire, because I find, if you'd asked me a couple of months ago, I'd say Leon, but I actually find Claire much more fun to run these days. So yeah, I'd say Claire A would be a good start.
Yeah, I think people tend to go for Leon, even in the original Leon A is like the most popular category. I think it's the one that most people start off with, the one that people remember. I know that was the one that I put so much time into as a kid, before even exploring the other 3 scenarios that were included in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a channel point redemption on my channel to do Resident Evil quotes, so I'm going to treat that as a redemption, a show run. I probably can't do an impression, but I'll certainly do a line. You were almost a Jill sandwich. Ha! You're right.
Snake's going to take the punch there intentionally, just to kind of manipulate or to lower the DA. because picking up any healing items, as Snake explained at the beginning, will raise it. So it's better just to kind of let the DA score plummet a little bit.
Yeah, exactly what Luke said as well. Yeah, Leon was disc 1 in Resident Evil 2 original on the PlayStation, so naturally that's where you would go for first.
I think I first played it on the GameCube, which was on one disc, and you could select just like both of them on the same disc.
Yeah.
One of those very small little GameCube CDs.
Yeah, back in the day. Crazy to think that we had tiny little discs for GameCube.
And it's interesting as well, as we make our way to the orphanage here, how much of the section, so a lot of the things you're seeing here, you know, you saw the gun shop, the alleyway, the dumpster, and we're coming up to both the basketball court and the bus. These are all sections that in the original or in the original Resident Evil 2 was the beginning. You would have to do all of these almost as like a gauntlet to the RPD. And it's very interesting that the developers moved it to the halfway point. Definitely threw off a lot of expectations.
Yeah, I think
genuine
going
surprise.
straight into the game, you're like, oh, where's the basketball court? They got rid of it, and you're angry at them for removing it because it's so iconic, and then you get later down the line, and it's actually later in the game, and you're like, oh, they did put it in here.
It works as a pretty good little prelude to the orphanage for Claire, and then for Leon, he goes to the gun shop, to the sewers, and
It's gotta be the orphanage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very
got through that for free though. Dogs were free, as the community says.
Yeah, dogs are never free. But so we're now coming up to where we were playing as Sherry.
Have the pendant.
In terms of the story, everything that happened with Sherry was happening while we were travelling over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you've seen in the cutscene that it transitioned to, it said 30 minutes earlier. So yeah, we're now at the same sort of time that we were here with Sherry, really.
Sherry.
And we're pretty much done with the RPD now. We can say goodbye to the famous police station, making our way to the sewers, which is completely reworked in the remake. It really does. It really gets the chance to be fleshed out a lot and expanded upon.
Don't stop.
There's some stair skating there. Coming up to a very controversial scene when the game originally came out.
Oh yes, we are. So
Go, go.
this is only in the Claire scenario. So Mr. X lasts the whole game in Leon's scenario. But in Claire's scenario, William Birkin, which is Sherry's dad, but he's been infected with the G virus, actually sticks his claw through Mr. X and rips him in half, killing him.
Putting an end to an almost several decade debate between Resident Evil fans. You know, who would win, Birkin or Mr. X? And the developers answered that in the remake. But yeah,
They're talking about Gun Survivor in the chat. Sonic actually,
yeah, I did spot it.
Sonic actually has a run on that game. So, do you want to give your thoughts on Gun Survivor?
See, I like Survivor, but I wouldn't recommend it to someone who isn't a Resident Evil fan. You know, it's got a lot of the terrible voice acting that the original games are known for, and you can definitely see where they really try to flesh it out. You know, you can go through the game and you can take different paths that have different outcomes. It does fall flat a little bit. In fact, I would argue that Resident Evil Survivor would probably be more popular if it was a third-person classic camera angle with the tank controls. I think it'd be much preferred by fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd side with that as well. I think first person did put people off, but that's where we're at with Resident Evil at the moment, where first person is their go-to thing at the moment.
And to be honest, I think they've really perfected it. I really like kind of where the series is at. I think the mainline series, that, you know, with 7 and more recently Village, the game's different, but it's not at the same level of like ridiculous that we had with Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to argue or fight for Survivor. Fully agree, it's not a very good game, but it's a guilty pleasure, you know.
It's one of those games you play, but you don't tell anyone that you play.
Yeah, exactly. Here I am announcing it on SpeedGaming Live. But we've got a T-bar here, which is one of the key items we're going to use. They're going to be reusing or reworking one of the main puzzle elements from the original. We have to gain a load of plugs that are themed from chess pieces.
That's another rare game to hear mentioned there, Dead Aim. I actually quite liked Dead Aim. I used to play that so much as when I was a teenager on PS2.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I think Gun Survivor, what was it called? Not Gun Survivor. Dead Aim is, it's not the greatest, but the safe thing in that game is one of the most iconic, or even the best ones in the series. I will fight on that hill.
Fair. I think you're right. I thought Dead Aim had very good, some very good music to it. Night Dragon's got a very good point. Adding the first person really does help the VR element to it. So, like,
it's always interesting. I don't know. Have you played Resident Evil 7 in VR?
No, I haven't, but I can imagine it's pretty scary in VR.
It's really good, but I'm surprised they never ported it over to the PC version or tried to continue it in Village. As like a fan, as someone who's been like a lifelong fan of Resident Evil, I don't mind where it's at the moment. You're going to see Snake here as well with the G mutants. Snake will shoot to kind of bring the G mutant out. He can run around it and avoid it grabbing him and poisoning him.
Yeah, so pretty good sewers there, or start to the sewers.
Not too bad, and it's interesting because the G mutant in the original is actually a full-fledged boss fight. In the remake, he's just another enemy that you fight. I think in a controversial change, they removed the huge spiders that live in the sewers and replaced them with the G mutant.
Yeah, but rather than there being one G mutant like there is in the original, we get about 6 or 7. Because that's fun. Yeah, so a lot of people will, and I am included in that audience, will say sewers is the worst part of the game because it just can be so toxic. It is toxic. My sewers there was pretty good, but if you get it wrong, boy does it go wrong. And that was annoying. I kind of needed that grenade.
Hopefully the zombie enjoys it.
Let's get rid of that. No, let's not get rid of that. Let's do that.
I've actually heard, from what I've seen of the Resident Evil 4 VR game, it looks pretty well done. It's a shame that it's only exclusive to the Oculus. If it was on other platforms, I'd probably consider picking it up.
Absolutely. And another thing with the VR element, like the Dragon said, it just reaches out to an extra audience. You know, you've got the people that love playing VR games, and if you put Resident Evil on there, it's just more sales for the company. And as a company, you're gonna want that.
I think that the old style of Resident Evil, where you're going around a small environment, picking up items, doing puzzles, I think that would work so well in a VR game. I think that they could really, the slow-paced element would remove a lot of that motion sickness or fast motion that comes with a lot of unoptimized VR games. And I think that classic Resident Evil is perfect to be remade in VR or something. We're going to use the I keep forgetting the name of this gun.
The Spark Shot.
Spark Shot, that's it.
Which is also in the original, but it's not picked up in the speedrun at all in the original.
It's basically a massive taser.
Yes, this appears in the original in the same place that Leon picks up the shotgun parts, which you only see on casual playthrough.
It's a damn shame you don't see it in the speedrun, but those weapon upgrades in the original and even in the remake era are a lot of fun, and they add a lot to the game.
Yeah, having
But
that.
we've got all of the plugs now.
Yeah, having that extra powerful shotgun on the original was just such a dream. So this is Queen. So this is the main puzzle that changes from the original, I find. This is the one that can always confuse me, and I'm just like, oh, what?
This took me way longer than I'd like to admit. My first playthrough, I think the combination actually changes between the first and second scenario. So whether you go through with Leon or Claire first, your first playthrough with this is going to have an entirely different combination, different puzzle hint.
I've got it on my puzzle sheet, but I didn't need to look at it because I've been running this a bit more recently, so it's a bit implanted in my memory at the minute.
So I'm going to grab the herb there. It's going to bring the DA up a little bit, but we are approaching G2, which is Birkin.
So I'm basically close to 7 DA at the moment, so I'm at 6,991.
Now, just as a reminder, I think you said optimally you want to keep it low. 7's the highest you want it on standard. I'm going to use this grenade here.
And it's just gone to 7.
So with the grenade, it actually skips the first section of this fight, which has Claire running back and forth while Birkin sticks his claws through the ceiling. That grenade actually skips that entire section, saves a lot of time.
Yeah, and he goes
And we can run to
straight
the
to
second
smashing
section.
the door down, which is handy.
So for this fight, we need to activate the crane so that it will knock Birkin off of the platform. You're going to see Snake grab some of these defense items. He's got several knives in his arsenal. He's going to knife Birkin and try to get his health below 50%. That way, we only need to call the crane once. We call that the one cycle Birkin. During your casual playthrough, you're probably just going to just call it twice and kind of distract him. But here it's optimal that we keep his health below 50.
Not great movement from me, but... So again, with the graphics, we'll knock it down to 50%. Probably should have done it a bit earlier, but we're cool.
Just as a reminder, lowering your graphic settings here will allow us to kind of maintain maximum FPS. The knife's damage is tied entirely to the frames per second. So if we can keep that at 120, we can do the maximum amount of damage. But because his health is less than 50 here, it should only take one cycle for this crane.
Yeah, he's
So
at
that should
48,
be it here.
48.
Very nice. Otherwise, you would have to do it twice.
And there you can see the big graphics difference until it. I'll just show you it running like that now, and then let's look at it at 100%. You can put it up to 200%, but we don't. So you can just see the difference in quality just by that.
And yeah, Luke makes a really good point. In the original, when you get the shotgun upgrade, it almost sends Leon flying back because Chris, he knows how to handle these weapons. He knows how to punch boulders.
Yeah.
He handles it like a champ.
Yeah, Chris had a nice little shotgun on the original, which didn't send him flying. But yeah, Leon is just a young man. So
Just a young Boy Scout, first day on the job. This point of the storyline, Sherry has been infected by the dude we just fought, Birkin. We need to take Sherry to the underground umbrella facility, which will take us to the final section of the game, or the labs, as we like to call it. It's fairly similar to the original, but they have reworked it in a lot of ways. I feel like they've changed the labs in terms of its aesthetic. If you've played the original, you'll know what I mean. But any thoughts going into this?
Labs can be tricky in terms of liquors are a big meme, as they are on the original. And I'd say the one big change that is key to the B scenario between the original and the remake is Sherry doesn't get infected in the B scenario on the original. you don't have to go and get the vaccine and stuff. Is that right? I am right in saying that. Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Because
You know a bit more than me. Yeah. Whereas here, on the remake, she gets infected in both scenarios.
I think one of the biggest critiques this remake got is that the B scenarios aren't anywhere near as in depth as they are in the original. In the original game, the A scenario was like Resident Evil 2, but the B scenario was almost an entirely different game on its own. You had the addition of Mr. Rex. I think because of how they've reintroduced Mr. Rex to run through all the 4 scenarios, I don't think there was much of a need for a B scenario, but it's like an arrange mode. Snake getting the grenade launcher here because he did not grab it earlier on in the game.
Yeah, which is a nice addition. I'm just going to touch on what Luke said, because I think he's asking about the image quality thing there. So what that is, it just holds it makes sure your machine can hold the FPS a little better. So we want it to basically stick at 120, because with damage being tied to FPS on the knife, we basically want that knife to be hitting 120 at all times.
So we'll grab what I like to call the upgrade to the Fitbit. And an upgrade for the spark shot there. And to give credit where credit is due, I really, I think this remake is brilliant. I think their interpretation of the original Resident Evil 2 is honestly really good, and I'm glad that they felt confident enough to make the changes where they did. We'll always have the originals, so it's interesting to see what they do with the remakes here.
Yes, it is very interesting.
So we're going to get rid of some of the items here, make some space. Not going to need many of these keys anymore.
Yeah, not optimal, but I'm at plus
Just
1 minute 40, so I mean, the chance of PBing now is probably out the window.
So what you've seen us there is the signal modulator, which is another thing that's been added to the remake. You use it to power different parts of the lab, each one requiring almost a different kind of puzzle where you have to match the wavelength. You'll see it, it's quite easy. But they in essence, the labs are very similar to how it is on the original. Aesthetically, it's very different, it looks quite futuristic. I prefer the original, but that's just because I'm way too set on that. I do like what they did with this.
Yeah, so the signal modulator really replaces what was the fuse that you went and got at the start of the labs in Resident Evil 2, the original. Is that fair to say?
The power on the whole. Yeah, no, that's fair to say, because that would power the whole lab, but this, you're going to have to go through different sections and do it yourself.
Yeah.
What you've just seen is the remake's iteration of the IV. Definitely more terrifying in this version. In this game and in this run, if they grab you, you'll have 2 choices, which is to use one of your self-defense items and waste one of them, or let them one-hit kill you. There's no in-between, they have no other attacks.
Yeah.
It's very challenging. This puzzle looks a little confusing, but it works exactly like a number pad, like from 1 to 9, 0.
Yeah.
You just put it in there. 2048 opening the drug test lab, 5831 opening the basement. So these are the sections we're going to go visit now.
So a lot of people have their split files saved as that code to remember it. I just have my puzzle solution picture open so I know what it is. And that's the only one I'm still looking at to remember it now. So I remember all the other ones, it is just that one. This one is a very straightforward puzzle. It's not hard to remember once you know it. It's blue, red, green, and yeah, you guessed it, blue, red, green.
It's frustrating with this puzzle because if you change things up and then leave the puzzle and come back, it will not reset the puzzle, I believe. It will stay exactly as you left it. Am I right in saying that?
So say that again for me.
With that puzzle, when you leave and come back to it, it doesn't actually reset, does it? It's stuck on what you left it.
What you left it on, yeah. Exactly what you said there, yeah.
So a puzzle you don't really want to mess up on because it becomes a little more difficult to follow the path.
Yeah, once you've messed up, if you mess up that puzzle, especially on a speed run, that's reset territory right there. Just to explain about picking up that grenade, it's not optimal. We don't usually pick that one up, but because the zombie grabbed me in the sewers and I accidentally clicked spacebar out and just tanked my bite, I was just picking the extra one up to pick it back up. So this puzzle is Q, Q, 4 W's, and then D. And I do also use that the puzzle photo for that one just to remind myself, because that's another one I'm not quite confident in remembering yet.
Turn the power on. We've got a load of lickers coming in now, and we've got a massive fan favourite cutscene coming up here that they kept in the remake.
Damn.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use that.
Thankfully, I think. No, I don't think. Yeah, we can skip it. Okay. In the original, you can't skip it.
Yeah, you can't skip that in the original. But yeah, it's a very iconic cutscene of the arm picking up the thing and moving it. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Snake's going to shoot here to bait the lickers, throw the flashbang over to throw them off a little bit. Very dangerous there, but we made it through just fine.
Sorry, I've got her. What?
Ooh, unlucky.
What? No! I did not
that's so
expect
unlucky,
that.
dude.
I did not expect that. Okay. I was basically through the door, but you know.
You were just. That was pretty much the final area
frame.
that
It was literally the final
stopped you.
frame.
Yeah, if you just made it a second earlier, you would have been free to go. Unfortunately, that's going to set us back just a moment. We're going to have to do this power section again, I believe.
Yeah,
but we'll get through it in no time, and just means you have to stick with us for an extra couple of minutes.
Unfortunately so. Unfortunately.
I think that should give me some time to remind everybody that you can get your donations in for next year's tournament prize pools. Here, that's what we're raising money for here at Speed Gaming Live 2021. So you're going to see a lot of tournaments going on this year over the other networks in the Speed Gaming family, and support those runners who do a lot of work to prepare for those tournaments and put in a lot of work over the course of the week of the marathon, getting those in by donating to those prize pools. You can also put those donations towards incentives and prizes and what games you want to see tournaments for next year in next year's event. So make sure you are take a look at those incentives and making those donations. You can get the link in the chat by putting *donate.
Maybe one day we'll see a Metal Gear Solid tournament on here. Who knows?
Hey, if if you want one, you can donate for it.
There you go. Exactly. If you want a Metal Gear Solid one, get those donations in. Oh, this is risky.
Ooh, I thought he was going to give you a fresh haircut there. I can't lie.
Yeah. Just leave me
On the tail, but he just still gets tagged. But thankfully, that green herb came in clutch.
Well, do you want to know what
Absolutely.
my D8 as my health bar is? I'll give you.
What is it on right now?
I'll give you one guess.
Is it on 1 HP?
Yes, it is.
1 HP in a dream. However, these guys are 1 hit kills, so I guess it's 1 hit no matter what.
Oh yeah. I mean,
You can just wipe the sweat from your brow there. Just take a collective, just in through your nose, out through your mouth. Terrifying. The labs being as Mimi as always, but Snake's pushing through it.
yeah, this is not what we want to see.
An additional upgrade for the Fitbit here that will get us to the other side. Again, just trying to sneak out of here, get out of here before the lickers grab us. You can shoot the little spots that they have all over them to kind of stun them. Final couple of RVs for this section here. And
So-
you've made it out. Nice.
We're just the 4 minutes and 8 over our splits here.
So definitely not a PB, but you know what, man? Doesn't have to be clean. We just got to make it over the finishing line.
Yeah, so this is it's just unfortunate RNG in certain areas, and you know that's how
The
cookie
lickers,
crumbles.
lab lickers, famously being the lab lickers. Doesn't matter if you're on the original or the remake, they're always gonna act up a little bit.
Absolutely, that's the way the game goes. Lab lickers are a meme in both games, and one thing to mention about the original that's which it's probably one of the big changes in the remake and the original. The remake optimally speedrunners play the Japanese version, and this is because let me do this puzzle really quickly before I explain it. Yeah, so this is because damage is less on the Japanese version, and you can take more damage. Certain zombie positions are different, whereas in the remake, it's just the same everywhere. And the one thing I spotted this on was when I recently did Resident Evil 2 on the GameCube, so Dolphin emulator, and Sonic had to tie me up with the Japanese ROMs for it because I had the American ones and I was getting beaten up a little bit, shall we say.
It's interesting because the originals I think we all remember them being a lot harder than they actually are in their Japanese counterpart. I think it's something related to kind of video game rentals at the time because of how popular it was here in the West. You would find that they would make the games a little harder, so it would take more than just your 2 days to finish the game and rent it longer. But here we are at G3. You're going to use the spark shot and the knife here. You're going to want to pop the eyes and then just knife into him.
Not great, missed a shot, but cool. Can't do anything about it now. There we go.
So again, really just taking advantage of the knife and the damage that's tied to the frame rate. And as you saw, that the knives, they can break in this game. They have a durability thing on them. Goes red here, signifying that he is near the end of the fight.
So we actually get the one phase because we did really good knife damage. So it goes straight to this.
Very nice.
I actually saved
GG there.
about 40 seconds on that split. Literally because that's the first one phase I really got on him. But yeah, they did. Yeah, that was fantastic G3 fight for me. So
That
yeah.
was really good, honestly. GG's, dude.
So one thing I forgot to mention earlier, there's actually an optimal way to use the knife. If we do we sort of want it aiming left and coming across, because you can actually optimally do 3 strikes in one slash, because you're hitting it all across the body.
Oh, I see.
So that's why we aim in a certain way. So you'd, I guess I can sort
That's
of
why you
show
kind of aim low and really try to make
so
sure
you really
the
go like
entire
this and sort of so it comes across like that. And it
Yeah, so the
comes across
entire
all the
swipe
way.
reaches. Just does the maximum damage output.
Yeah, which is what you want, which is why I did a really good G3 fight, because you can hear it in the slashes, like the swipes, you can hear the damage.
Sure.
It's a sort of like a sound cue where you can hear it hitting certain areas.
We have to go.
So on our way here to the final gauntlet of boss battles, we've gotten the vaccine for Sherry. She's feeling all better. And making our way down this elevator where we'll be escaping the labs.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Absolutely.
Shoutouts to vaccines.
Of course, absolutely.
Yes, a shout out to vaccines indeed. Sherry's all fine now, and she's not gonna die. And we don't mind that in this one because she's not annoying. If we could just get rid of her in the original, we'd be a lot happier. But
So, what would you say is your favourite Resident Evil game to play casually?
Being so nice to me. For helping me.
I'd say this one.
I'm really glad I
Yeah, you think so?
It's very close, this one and the original too. Because it's hard for me to say because these days this is the one I play the most. But when I was younger, I played the original all the time as well. So they're both. I'd say both of them on a tie because I can't come away from the original. But
It's like picking a favourite child. It's just not possible, is it?
Yeah, but I have it on good merit. I've not got children myself, but I've been told you get a second one because the first one is so good. But no one ever really wants to go on to the third one because the second one was a terror. That's what I've been told.
So the whole thing was sequels, isn't it?
But no, all joking aside, yeah, I'd say the original was great. This one is great.
They definitely both have their strengths, and again, I think they both. This pays a lot of respected tribute to the original, but it does do its own thing to make it feel fresh. It's not just a retread or a one-for-one remake of the original. I think a lot of people want that. I don't think it's really what we want.
Yeah.
I like that they've made changes, because again, we're always going to have those originals. So if they want to make changes here and there, I'm definitely intrigued to let them try it.
Damn it, your time sucks.
But now we're waiting for Sherry to go through and unlock the door for us.
Yeah.
Something that's quite interesting is this little segment. It wasn't in the original Resident Evil 2, but in the prototype for that game, there was actually a section where Sherry would go in and you'd have to hold the line while she unlocks the door for you.
Oh, crap.
But really just trying to buy some time here. Very close here. Reloading the Colt. Perfect time in there.
Yeah, perfect time.
And now we're almost at the next boss battle. We've got two more coming up in a very short segment. That zombie will always die in one hit, I believe.
Well, yeah, he's on fire.
Atta girl. Think we're almost out of here.
I don't know, if there's one thing I've learned from these games, it's the zombies never really die.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
Worth a try.
So what are your thoughts going into the G4 boss battle here?
I guess because of the time I'm on, and there's no way I'm saving 3 minutes here. In fact, I'm already over my PB finish time. I could take it rather sort of casually and just be safe, but I will try and go for beating it as fast as possible because that's speedrunner's nature, unfortunately.
It's the name of the game, isn't it? This is another fight where in the original you actually do this fight a lot earlier. It's the fight that you do before the labs. You take this train directly into it, but they've kind of added it to the end here. So with the Gatling gun here, we're just going to pop the eyes. Snake's going to equip the grenade here because shortly he's going to jump, G3 is going to jump up here, as you see. The grenade is going to cancel that. saving us a little bit of time as he will climb up and dive down.
Oh, not good.
I've always found it weirdly satisfying to use the Gatling gun to pop the eyes.
Yes, it's very fun indeed.
There you go, good fight, dude, good fight.
Yeah,
Now
that was a
on
very
to
good
the
fight.
final boss battle that is exclusive only to this second or B scenario. Not much of a strategy here for G5, just unload everything we've got into him.
Absolutely. A lot of people love the music for this boss fight as well.
You gotta stop meeting like this. Hope you like bullets, because I got a hell of a lot more.
I love the quips that Claire fires off him.
Yeah, I know, it's brilliant.
Just going to rip and tear our way through this with a Gatling gun, and that's it. GG.
There we go.
Well played, man.
Do you know what? I'm actually quite happy I still sub-hour'd because I was way off sub-hour.
Yeah, man. I mean, you still did it within the estimate. That's a big GG.
Yeah, so at one point I was like an hour on one, so I actually pulled some really good time back in the end. But yeah, so
Well played, though.
Leon
And
just-
Luke asks, does this work like OG, where the more you unload into him, the more damage you do?
So in the OG it's very different. I'm just gonna let this cutscene play out.
Like that? Like, fucker! Give me your hand!
There we go.
Yeah, get
Yeah,
your
GG's
GGs.
overall.
Get your GGs in chat for SnakeSocom for this great run of Resident Evil 2 remake. Any shout outs before we head out?
Yeah, just thank you for everyone that's watched today. Even more bigger shout outs to the people that have come from my community to come along and support me. Some staying awake way past their bedtime. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me on because it's been such a great event. I've enjoyed both my runs. And I'm sorry I couldn't get the PB for some of you guys there, but no, we had lots of fun, and thank you for joining me on Comstor, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And really glad to be on here with the comms tonight, offering moral support on the codec, and of course for SpeedGaming for having us on tonight.
And just so
The
you
amazing credits track here as well.
everyone loves the credits track, but I'm gonna skip it for you guys so you can move on to the next run, unfortunately. And there's the official time, 59:33 S+, which I always find is like it's not fair that they give me the best rank in the game when I died. I feel like they should be a bit more harsh on the rank, but
I don't know, man. He did sprint through that in less than an hour. I think this game takes people like 4 to 8 hours on their first playthrough, and you've blasted through it in less than an hour.
absolutely.
GG's, man.
And again, thank you for having me on.